Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Nicole Chapman, Director of Training and Education here at Club Caddy. Today we are going to walk through the really exciting new features we've introduced in our 5.4.18 new release. The highlights of this latest release is really focused on our events module. We have done a complete upgrade from start to finish, and I'm really excited to showcase all of those things. On top of the events module, we have made some great additions to reporting, on demand, sunrise and sunset, auto blocking on the T-sheet. So lots to review, and I hope you can take some time to watch all of these new enhancements and features and how to use them. Now, we are going to do an overview of the latest updates to events, but I do want to add that included in this email is a complete video walkthrough from start to finish on how to set up an event. So please take a look and be sure to share this with your event sales team, food and beverage managers, catering directors, and so on, so they have a good understanding of it. It's a great tool, and we're really excited to enhance the events module for your team. Now, to begin, we are going to start in the events module. And let's first talk about event statuses. We've added new color codes for proposed and tentative events. Now you can easily distinguish between confirmed, proposed, and tentative events at a glance on the calendar. To set these statuses, navigate to the events module, click into any event by selecting View/Edit, and here, your event builder window will pop up and you can assign a status to each event based on its current state. For instance, if you're in talks with a client but they haven't signed yet, you can mark the event as proposed. Once the contract is sent but not signed yet, set it as tentative. And finally, as they sign and receive your deposit, let's say, you can select confirmed. And what this is going to do at a glance on the calendar is show you the dates that are going to be available and not available. So you can go ahead and easily see that as you're maybe talking on the phone with a client, whether or not a date is available, making it easier for those food and beverage directors, catering directors, event salespeople to have that information easily accessible. A nice little add-on feature is also that you can now see the start times on the calendars for these events. So if you look here and you look at the different events, you can see the start times are listed. So again, you can very easily see what your day looks like and what the availability is. Now, this next section has to be my favorite enhancement, and all you event directors are going to love it. So we have included instructions for timeline items. And what that means is, for example, let's take this wedding here. You can see in the timeline that we have scheduled the bridal party's arrival, the ceremony setup, the cocktail reception, all the way down to the champagne toast. And here to the left, you can see there's now an instructions button. The new timeline item instructions feature is going to streamline event planning details by offering department-specific instructions in the Event Builder's Timeline tab. And this is going to reflect on the BEO. So for instance, golf events will only show golf-related instructions, while banquet events will display banquet-specific instructions. Users can also create reusable instruction templates in the settings, and we'll review that in a little bit, allowing quick customization by adding numbers or details without starting from scratch. And I know all you event planners out there do a lot of copying and pasting, and this is going to help with that a lot. It's going to be a huge time saver. Now, this approach also is going to simplify the BEO and ensure consistency and break out these instructions per department, making it really easy to track which department's instructions have been included for each item. And then additionally, instructions can be edited further in the instructions tab, which we will also review a little bit later. But these will also all appear in the BEO in those sections because the kitchen staff doesn't need to know what the setup crew needs to do and vice versa. And this is going to help your team really streamline your events and the needs of each department. I'm really excited about this new feature. Now, my favorite part of this is that we have gone ahead and went a step further and created the ability to add templated instructions, like I mentioned before, and it's by department. Now, this is likely to change because department may not be the right verbiage, so don't be surprised if you see the verbiage change in the near future. Maybe it'll be instruction type instead. But for anyone that does events, this is a very nice feature. Typically, there are always those standard needs for events, and now you do not have to type these instructions out every time. So we're going to go ahead and review how to go ahead and set this up. Now, to create these templates, we're going to go to the settings, then go to event settings, head to departments tab here, and then you're going to click add here. Now, in this example, you can see some of the ones that we've set up previously, but here we're going to jump into one that's already set up just for ease of time. So you can see these several examples that we've used in the past in my detailing events when I did events. So we just copied and pasted some examples. And the best news is all of these are going to reflect on the newly designed BEO. And I'll show you a sneak peek in a little bit, but it is a great layout and it's going to be so much easier for your team to utilize, and you can distribute it across the team very easily. So really excited to showcase that as well. And this is a huge, huge enhancement. Anyone who knows events and has to set up those details knows there can be quite a few details needed. And this is going to allow you to be as granular and repetitive as necessary. Now we're going to move on to the next tab, which is our venues tab. You can now also assign a setup and breakdown times to the different venues to ensure your team builds in enough time and does not overlap, and allows for easier scheduling of staff in this view. So this is especially helpful if your events span multiple locations. Now, let's give an example. Let's say you have a banquet setup at 9 a.m. in Hall A and a tournament in the outdoor area at 10 a.m. By assigning these to their respective venues, you can ensure there's no overlap and everything runs smoothly with enough staff. And you can go ahead and view this within the venue module. So once you've set this up here, let's jump to the venue module here. And we're going to select the day of, let's say, the Wingate wedding we were looking at earlier. Now you can see that we have teardown and setup times already scheduled out. So this is also going to really help with the visualization of what's needed and the appropriate setup and breakdown times, really helping organize these events much better as far as timeline goes. Moving on to the next tab of the events module is the floor plan. This is a nice little enhancement as well, which is you now have the ability to print the floor plan. So you can do this in several ways and use it in several ways. This is perfect for event setup teams who need clear visual guides to follow. And you can go ahead and create a PDF if you'd like. You can email it to clients. You can add it to your BEO, or you can simply add it to the attachments here in the event builder as well, just to keep track of any changes made. Nice way to keep track of those items. So little feature, but goes a long way. Now, these next two tabs, Menu and Add Ons, we're going to skip, but we did do an update in our last release, so be sure to check that out if you didn't see it, and how you could add remarks within the inventory item itself. And what this is great for is adding specific details to maybe, let's say, a package or a menu item. An example I came across often when I was doing tastings was the chef would create several sauces that were particular to that time of year, and those needed to be noted as they can change over the course of a year. So being able to add in those menu add-on remarks is very helpful for the kitchen to know exactly what the client preferred, any special notes like less salt preferred, and so on. So you can utilize that remarks feature, which will also reflect in the BEO, and really help detail those package items rather than keeping them very general. You get really detailed in it. Moving on, as I mentioned before, we now have this instructions tab. Now we've integrated the instructions and setup items directly into the timeline as we reviewed. We call it department now, but likely to change. This means that any instructions or notes added to a timeline item will now appear on the BEO, providing that overview to your team. Now, users can go ahead and utilize this tab. These little green check marks that you see are visual confirmation of active departments with instructions. So you can double check and make sure that you have gone ahead and included those instructions and not forgetting anything. So if you need to modify the instructions or text for these departments, you can do so on this larger screen here. If you want to remove a department entirely, you can go ahead and use the delete button located on the top here. If you'd like to add an instruction, you can go ahead and click into it and you'll see that information populate and a check mark will then show next to it. Now, this is going to streamline the interface and allow more efficient management of those department-specific instructions and information. Now, the other nice feature to this is you can order the display for department instructions by event type. And what I mean by that is here in this example, you can see that we put our tournament section, if you will, at the top, and then more of our events wedding section here on the bottom. So you can go ahead and choose the display order in which you see this and group them accordingly. So you have really easy view and access to these. To do this, you're going to go ahead and go to your settings, event settings here, click on the departments tab. Then under the action, you're going to hit that view/edit. And you're going to choose the display sequence number, 0 being the top, 100 being the very last if you want. So I definitely recommend taking the time to do this. Now, one caveat to this is if you had set up previous departments earlier, you're going to see down here the all caps down below. These are not going to follow the display sequence we just went over. So we will have to convert these and put them now in the event settings under the department tab. So in essence, what you're going to have to do is delete them from here by doing this, and then enter them back in that settings section. Now, this can be cumbersome for some facilities, so please reach out to the email listed in the email that this video was provided in to go ahead and get assistance for that. We're here to help transfer you over to use this new feature. So if you need assistance, let us know. Otherwise, it will be a manual task, but well worth it. So the next tab we're going to move to is the payment tab. Now, we've added a great new feature in here. All you accountants, all of you that are trying to post revenue in the proper month to reflect, this is for you. A new post revenue option has been added to the existing close event functionality. So when you select this, items in the menu and add-ons tabs will be posted as revenue and reflected in the reports. Now, maybe you need to still finalize payments. Maybe you want to ensure there's no refunds needed, or the customer owes more money, many reasons. But after you're confirming the charges, then users can finalize the event by closing the event. And this is going to lock the event from being edited. So a nice way to post the revenue, but allow the flexibility to make adjustments if needed. And now, last but definitely not least in the events module, my most exciting thing is the revamp of the BEO. So here you can see an example of the BEO, and it really reflects everything we just did. It's now clearly displaying by department the needs, and here you can also download the BEO for your team to review in the department meetings. You can send this to clients for sign off and approval. Go ahead and attach that floor plan. So this is definitely going to give you a much cleaner view, timeline, details of your events. And we are really excited to tie everything we just went over into this document, really bringing it all together. So here you can see the example. I hope you guys test it and take a look for yourselves. But that concludes the events section of the new release. Now we're going to move on to some other goodies. Now, this next new feature is great for anybody who is using distribution engines. What this is now going to do is allows preventing 3P price overrides when using distribution engines. So if a user makes an override special using the distribution engine on the T-sheet, they will now have the option to not allow any other price overrides from those third parties. Let me give you an example. If rain is anticipated, users can choose to discount the prices of those tee times and override the distribution engine's pricing, which usually refreshes, I think, every half an hour or so. Or if users would like to increase particular times of play for various reasons, the same can be done. So when associated distribution engines refresh, those times will not be affected. To go ahead and do this, you're going to go to your T-sheet. You're going to go to the distribution engine tab here. you're going to right click on one or multiple rates. You're going to choose Create Override Rate. And here on the very side, you can see the toggle that says Prevent Further Override from Other Providers. And by toggling that on, you will lock in the price you associate in the price box here. Now we have created an automation that is going to save you a significant amount of time. We've introduced a sunrise and sunset auto block feature. This feature automatically blocks tea times before sunrise and after sunset based on your location and address. Now, to enable this, you're going to go to Tea Sheet Settings, and here you're going to go and turn on the sunrise and sunset toggle. The system uses Weather API integration to determine the exact times for you. So if your sunset is at 6:30, that's what it's going to block for sunset. This feature will auto refresh daily and extend up to 90 days on the tea sheet. So as long as you have it on, it will every day go 90 days out to block accordingly when those sunset and sunrise times are. Huge time saver. And the last enhancement in our tea sheet is our tea sheet permissions. You can now control who has the ability to create, edit, and delete blocks. This ensures that only authorized personnel can make changes, adding an extra layer of security and control. To set this, you're going to go to your settings, manage roles, tea sheet, and manage blocks. And if you toggle this on based on the permission levels, this is going to allow that group of people or staff to be able to edit and delete blocks accordingly. Now moving on to food and beverage and the register side of things, we have made a significant improvement to our on-demand scheduling. So we now have a scheduling feature which will allow you to set availability for pickups and deliveries based on your specific days and times. This means that customers will only be able to order during your designated hours, preventing orders from coming in when you're closed, too busy, or otherwise unavailable. The key benefit is that you no longer need to constantly monitor the on-demand orders or manually toggle on the service. Now, if you don't utilize this feature, then on-demand is always available even when your kitchen is closed. So I do suggest taking the time to set that schedule for yourself. It's a huge, great new feature, allowing much more control. Now, to set this up, you can go ahead and go to your settings, register settings, choose the on-demand tab, and here you will see the pickup schedule and delivery schedule availability here. You can also go ahead and click on the on-demand module and choose the on-demand settings as well if you prefer to do it that way. Also, a little enhancement we included is a new sound notification for when there are new on-demand orders to enhance awareness. Now, this is automatic, so if you don't want to hear that sound, go ahead and turn the volume down. However, it is really helpful so that you can also not just visually see it blinking, but you also hear that an order has come in. Another new enhancement in the register and under the customer or member profile is the ability to select whether somebody is service charge exempt. So there's a new functionality to mark both a tab in the register or, as I mentioned, the customer profile as service charge exempt. These are really good use cases for employees, owners, any special members or customers that don't receive service charge. And to go ahead and do this in the register, you can see here, if you pull up a tab, at the very bottom, there is a yes or no option for service charge. You can simply hit no. Or if you go to a customer or member's profile here, and you go to the settings option here, you're gonna see that toggle for whether they are exempt or not. So nice way to control that for particular people within your facility. And last but not least, in our reports, there is now totals for each GL account in the sales by month SKU report. So here, if you go to reports, select sales by month by SKU report, you can see here that the GL accounts are totaled at the bottom for easy accounting and calculation. And there you have it. I know this was a long one. I know I went over things pretty quickly, but as I mentioned, there is going to be additional and continued education, especially for that events module in some upcoming webinars. So please be on the lookout for that, as well as some knowledge-based articles to walk you through these processes. We really hope that these new features enhance your experience and streamline your operations. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any questions or need further assistance, our support team is always here to help.